Truth Series with Chris Fisherman. Seeking Truth, Sharing Christ. Truth Never Fears. Honest Investigation. The Truth Series, Episode 1, The Origin of the Qur'an. Investigating some of the original sources of the Qur'an that question the standard Islamic narrative. Welcome back to the Truth Series. Thank you for joining me again as we continue our investigation into one of the most important historical and religious questions ever asked. Where did the Qur'an come from? For more than 14 centuries, Muslims around the world have believed that the Qur'an is the final revelation from God. To understand the historical questions surrounding the Qur'an, we must first understand what Muslims themselves believe. According to the traditional Islamic narrative, Muhammad was 40 years old when he received his first revelation. While meditating in a cave known as Hira near Mecca, the angel Jibril, or Gabriel, appeared and commanded him to read or recite. Muslims believe that over the next 23 years, revelations continued until Muhammad's death in AD 632. These revelations were memorized by Muhammad's followers, written on a variety of materials, and later compiled into the Qur'an that Muslims read today. According to the traditional Islamic understanding, Muhammad was not the author of the Qur'an. Rather, he was the faithful messenger who transmitted God's exact words. For Muslims, this belief is central to their faith. The Qur'an is therefore regarded not merely as inspired by God, but as the literal speech of God. For over 14 centuries, this has been the accepted explanation of the Qur'an's origin. But what if the historical evidence tells a more complex story? Could some of the narratives found in the Qur'an have existed long before Muhammad? Do striking similarities with earlier Jewish, Christian, and other religious traditions deserve careful investigation? And what do the earliest Islamic sources themselves reveal about the formation and transmission of the Qur'an? These are important questions, not because truth matters. Throughout history, sincere men and women have searched for truth by examining the evidence. Every major worldview, including Christianity and Islam, should be open to honest historical investigation. In this series, we will seek to distinguish between tradition, historical evidence, and scholarly interpretation. We will consult the Qur'an itself, early Islamic writings, historical documents, and the work of respected researchers. Where scholars disagree, we will say so. Where evidence is debated, we will acknowledge that as well. My invitation to you is simple. Don't accept my conclusions merely because I present them. Examine the evidence for yourself. Think carefully. Compare the sources. Ask honest questions. If the Qur'an is truly from God, then sincere investigation has nothing to fear. And if the historical evidence points in another direction, then we should be willing to follow the evidence wherever it leads. So let us begin. Part 1. Do earlier Jewish and Christian sources appear in the Qur'an? As scholars began comparing the Qur'an with earlier literature, they noticed that many narratives found in the Qur'an were already known centuries before Muhammad. These similarities have been discussed for generations by Muslim scholars, Christian scholars, and historians of religion. For example, the accounts of Adam and Eve, Noah and the flood, Abraham, Joseph, Moses, David, Solomon, Jonah, Mary, and Jesus all appear in both the Bible and the Qur'an. That observation alone does not prove dependence. Muslims explain these similarities by saying that God revealed the same truths to earlier prophets and then revealed them again perfectly through Muhammad. Other historians propose different explanations. They point to earlier Jewish traditions, Christian writings, apocryphal literature, and oral stories circulating in Arabia before and during Muhammad's lifetime. The important question is not whether these similarities exist. Almost everyone agrees that they do. The real question is, how should these similarities be explained? Part 2. Umar's remarkable statements. One of the most intriguing discussions in early Islamic history concerns Umar ibn al-Khattab, one of Muhammad's closest companions and later the second caliph. Several reports preserved in the Hadith describe occasions where Umar expressed an opinion or wish, after which a Qur'anic revelation is said to have corresponded with that view. These reports have become known as the Agreements of Umar, or Muwafaqat Umar. For Muslims, these reports are generally understood as evidence that God, in His wisdom, revealed verses that agreed with insights already expressed by Umar. Some historians, however, have asked a different question. If certain passages corresponded with suggestions made by one of Muhammad's companions, what does that imply about the historical process through which the Qur'an came into being? This is one of the questions that we will examine more closely in future episodes. Conclusion. Today, we have examined the traditional Islamic explanation for the origin of the Qur'an. We have also seen that many of the narratives found in the Qur'an have striking parallels in earlier Jewish and Christian literature and tradition. We have briefly introduced the reports concerning Umar and why historians have considered them significant. These are some of the questions that we will explore more fully in our future episodes. In the next episode, we will begin comparing specific Quranic accounts with earlier Jewish and Christian sources, allowing the historical evidence to speak for itself. Until then, I encourage you not to accept my conclusions simply because I present them, nor to dismiss them without careful consideration. Read the sources. Compare the text. Examine the historical evidence. And above all, continue seeking the truth with an open and honest mind. Thank you for watching. If you found this episode helpful, please consider subscribing, sharing it with others, and joining me again for episode 2 of the Truth series. For additional study, please see the links in the description below, including my free online book, The Truth About God and Islam, Facts and Myths, together with carefully selected historical resources and recommended videos. Until next time, may God bless you as you continue your own search for truth.